Hi, hello, buongiorno. My name is Annabelle from Annabelle and Ben's Antics, and I have a cosplay competition in exactly 7 days. The thing is, I haven't actually started making my costume yet, so oops. Look, I just got really busy and distracted with a whole bunch of things. However, I am not dipping out of the cosplay competition. Instead, we're going to nail down and get this done. But what am I making? Well, if you've been watching my videos recently, you will have seen that I have not only been hinting, but outright saying that I spent my first YouTube paycheck on a roll of sequin fabric. One way is blue, one way is pink, and we're going to be making a colour changing Aurora dress. My first full-size ball gown. I am so damn excited. But there is a lot for me to do in just 7 days, including actually having a day off because it's a weekend, so let's get on with it. I began by asking Ben to duct tape me and draw on some lines based on the lines that we see in the movie. Once that was done, I traced out the pattern pieces and tried a new way of adding seam allowance. Then I ironed some scrap cotton before cutting it out and stitching it to use as a mock-up. This is a not so great angle, but the reason being because I got a dressmaker's mannequin, so yay, I can now use it to help me fit things. However, it does have to live in this corner over here because there is literally nowhere else in the room that we can put it. Downsides of downsizing again. However, this corset, I just tried this on. I think this is one of the best corsets I have ever made. I am super happy with this. This pattern, along with the rest of the dress, is going to be going off my Ko-Fi shop. Haven't quite finished making it at this point, but we will get there, and it looks so good. Now for the main fabric. Okay, so this is the main fabric, which is beautiful and stunning. I literally saw it in Spotlight and immediately knew what I wanted to make it on, so it's what I spent my first YouTube paycheck on, so yay. I wanted more or less the entire roll, and they ended up giving me the last little bit basically so that they didn't have to cut anything. So I've literally got a whole roll of this, which means we should have some left. Now the sequins do lay two ways. If they go this way, they're pink. If they go that way, they're blue. I think what I'm going to do is cut all of the pieces going straight down so the default is blue, as I prefer the blue to the pink. This fabric is a little bit stretchy, so I think I'm going to go in and hand stitch a couple of points on the bodice just to help secure it and keep it in place, because it's also very heavy. Also, just listen to the jingle it makes when it moves. I'm going to be forever sounding like this walking around a convention. You'll be able to hear me a mile off. It'll be brilliant. Before cutting out the bodice, I drew out and trimmed a whole bunch of bias binding using the last of the bodice lining fabric, then ironed it so that the sides were folded in. So I've been making some of the most perfect bias binding I have ever made in my life, and I have just realised that I have actually been burning my ironing board, because this iron, which I picked up for literally $5 from a scrapyard, is actually industrial strength and gets way hotter than apparently my domestic ironing board likes, and now it is crispy like fried chicken. So sad. Once that was done, the bodice was cut, and boy oh boy am I going to be dealing with a lot of sparkles all over my floor. And yes, I am aware that I should not be using my good fabric scissors to cut this, but I have no other choice. Well, that made a bit more of a mess than I anticipated. Lovely. Before putting the bodice together, I decided to work on the petticoat for the dress. For this, I'm doing a tiered circle skirt, then adding a lot of ruffled layers, and yes, this entire petticoat is made out of polycotton bed sheets because of course it is. So that got measured, drawn and cut out before I did a bunch of math to work out the length of each ruffle layer, and we began cutting those out, only stopping to nip to the charity shop and grab some more bed sheets, which were harder to find than you would expect. Each bed sheet then got cut into 20cm strips, which for the moment I just piled to one side. What did you buy today?
This is essentially, it's soda water, but this ramune is a Japanese version of it, and I bought cola ramune. The Japanese have a way of sealing these, which is both ingenious and strange. Essentially, it's got a little glass top to it. Pop it in and it sits inside the little stem here. As you'll see, it's quite entertaining. There we go.
And how does it taste?
Find out. You try.
It doesn't really taste like anything.
No.
It's just very fizzy. I'm gonna try putting some whiskey in it.
Let's go to the shops.
Okay, we have Japanese whiskey to go with the Japanese soda. You know what, I actually think that's quite a good combination.
Do you know what? It actually tastes really good.
I know. Ben then helped me measure out the strips into sections for the petticoat before I took a year off my life by measuring out and marking the different layers before I ran each long strip through, stitched pieces together to make it a whole, and top stitched the edge down, which took ages. And honestly, props to Ben here for reminding me that I had a rolled hem foot, which does work, when I asked him to mark it all out and fold it over by hand. Ben also marked on the petticoat where I needed to stitch each layer before I stitched in a placket into the back of the petticoat, stitched up the back entirely, and attached the waistband. For now, I'm just going to pin it on me, but later I will add some fastenings. Hello and good morning. So we have a problem. Problem being that the petticoat did not get finished yesterday, and there is still quite a lot of work to do on it. However, I only have 5 days left to make this dress, so we're going to leave the petticoat for now. now, and I am going to work on the bodice. If I can get the bodice done today, I will be very, very happy. Doesn't have to have the grommets put in, but as long as it is wearable to the point that I could potentially be stitched in it, I will be happy. So I got stitching, and yes, I know I should have individually unpicked every sequin going into a seam, but you know what? Time. Besides, these seams will be hidden, though you'll see how I do that later. Okay, so I just mocked up the sleeve and the collar, and I think this is perfect. Ow, stabbed myself. Unfortunately, I don't have Ben here to kind of hold it really tight, but I did check that before. The top of the sleeve I got right first time, which was a total guess, so that was just lucky. I have just drawn on one little adjustment just to make it a little bit tighter around my arm because I didn't like how baggy the top was. Time to cut out the real thing. Before cutting out the sleeves, I took the time to stitch in the boning channels for my lining. I then pinned the corsets so that the bottom of the lining and the outside were facing towards each other and ran a stitch along. This was then turned right side around. So I am officially an idiot. I made this very lovely, very neat and tidy lining, and then I have attached it backwards, and I've already clipped all of the curves along the waist. So if I unpick it, it's going to be very 50-50 whether or not I can actually sew it back on again. So we're just going to go with the fact that the inside's a little bit messy and I might have to add a patch here or there to finish off a raw seam. It's fine. We'll figure that one out. It's annoying, but it's one of those things. Carrying on, I cut the boning to length and added it to the corset, deciding to just patch over those exposed raw edges later. I then began hand stitching on the gold braid, matching up the seams on the outside sequin fabric to the internal ones, and this not only looks great, but it is also very functional when it comes to keeping both layers matched up and together. Okay, so yesterday the bodice came on really, really well. Next thing I need to do is attach the sleeves, but we have a problem, which is that I was an idiot when I cut out the bodice pieces, and the sequins I have left are not large enough to cut the sleeves, which means we can do this a different way. I have plenty of fabric, I have meters and meters of it. However, the massive thing that I definitely need a lot of those meters for is the skirt. Can't cut out sleeves until I finish the skirt. Can't cut out skirt until I finish the petticoat, which is currently all on the floor. Conclusion, today is petticoat day. We're getting this done, people. Though I have changed my plan slightly, but we can talk about that in the voiceover. And to begin petticoat day, I needed to draw a solid line showing where each layer would need to be attached. After an hour or so of drawing, it was time to start the layers of this cupcake. I then set about gathering and pinning each layer without a gathering stitch, as I didn't want to waste the thread, and then sewing them on, one row at a time. And repeat, and repeat, and repeat.
So as you can see, it's 10:15. So Annabelle,
yes,
what are you doing that's preventing me from turning off the lights and going to bed?
I'm gathering ruffles for a petticoat, which I've been doing for at least 12 hours today. To be fair, I believe, I'm trying to think, there's over 100 meters of ruffles on this, so you know, take that as you will.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is why I can't sleep at night.
The next day I stitched the ruffle on that I'd pinned the night before, pinned another ruffle and stitched that too, before deciding that the scallops at this point were optional, so we left it there. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit stressed right now. We have just under 2 days to get this finished and half the dress still needs cutting out. However, the petticoat is now done, and one thing that makes me feel better is looking at this cupcake because oh my gosh, the flow is perfect. I'm so glad that I went with a circle petticoat. I was baiting it because it would have been a lot easier to do an A-line, but meh. So next thing is to add fastenings so I don't have to hold it up by hand, and then we can get cutting out the rest of the dress. One more spin just for fun. My room is not big enough for this skirt. Hooks and eyes and poppers were stitched onto the petticoat, and then at last we were on to cutting out the skirt. Thankfully, Ben had helped me measure the skirt length yesterday, so I added an extra 2 centimeters to allow for seam allowance. This was quite frustrating to draw out, as I just did not have enough room on my floor, but we got there in the end and got cutting, covering my bedroom in glitter once more. Ah, the sparkles. I then cut out the sleeves, trying to waste as little fabric as possible, before I also cut out a curved panel for the centre front of the dress. And if you notice, I have a lot of leftover fabric. Yes, I do, and this is because of course we are making another Aurora dress, and they gave me a big discount for taking the entire roll. So, my room now completely covered in sequins, which we will fix momentarily. Everything that is sequin is now cut out, which means we only have the other fabrics for the collar and the peplums left, so yay, that's good. However, last night I got Ben to measure it. This is going to be the front centre panel, just because there was no way to avoid a seam either in the centre front or either side, and kind of thought if I put a panel in here, at least the seam kind of looks a little bit natural, and I'm always up for a bit of extra swish. This fabric, if you cut it straight down the sequins, is stretchy. This was not something that me and Ben realised or considered. Therefore, this has gone from the extra 5 centimetres that I maybe wanted to hem it to a good half a foot on the floor. Even if I am going to wear heels, that is still not going to be good. So we're going to need to trim that up. We can fix too long. We couldn't fix too short. This is fine, more than happy. Now before I hoover up all the sequins, because I think this dress is probably going to get quite a lot of wear and tear and will need patching, I'm going to go through, collect all of the whole ones that I can potentially use on the dress later on.
So I gathered up the rest of the glitter before discovering my hoover was out of battery and moved on with the sewing. I pinned the sleeves into sleeves as my usual method of attaching won't work here, before also pinning the front panel onto the skirt and the 2 back panels together, making sure to push the sequins away from where the seams are going to be going if possible. Then it was to the sewing machine. Here everything was stitched. The fabric didn't fray, so I didn't bother overlocking it. However, it did slide like a Several times I had to stop, unpick and carry on as it slid all over the place, not helped by the whiskey Ben had given me to drink. And here's your warning, don't drink and sew people, you will definitely regret it.
This is looking absolutely amazing. I am genuinely so excited. This fabric is perfect. I was a bit 50-50 about how this was turning out right up until I put it all on the dressmaker's mannequin. And now I'm utterly in love. I think the pink panel down the front was a really good choice. The sleeves are perfect. I've just tried it on. It fits super comfortably. The neckline, as you can see, goes very nicely with the necklace. The skirt is a bit long. I've pinned it up a bit higher on the mannequin just to keep it from dragging on the floor. For the moment, we'll deal with the skirt length once I have the waistband and everything on. But 2 days left, guys. 2 days left to get this done. We're going to do it. I'm going to try and get the last few pieces cut out this evening, and then tomorrow we're going to get the collar and the peplums done, and hopefully that means that last day is just going to be hand stitching this, because that would be nice. Also, just saying, this petticoat gives it the perfect shape. It is puffy enough that the skirt definitely has some flow, but it is slim enough that we carry on with Aurora. I also found a fun fact. I was watching a bunch of Aurora YouTube people making costumes, and apparently Aurora is the only Disney princess in Disney World that doesn't wear a crinoline under her skirt. So I think the layered petticoat, which was recommended to me by Lady Rebecca Fashions, thank you Rebecca, I really appreciate it, as you can see come out very nicely, is utterly perfect. I also need to style the wig, which is another thing that I haven't considered, but to be fair, I think I can get away with the wig as it is if needed, so we're going to focus on finishing the dress, and if I have time, the wig will get styled with a nice little side piece. However, if we don't have time, such is life, and I can live with that.
So I got cutting out the interfacing for the collar and then the peplums. This was then ironed onto the amazing pink and blue metallic fabric that I actually got on Mustafa Street when I visited Singapore, before the lace overlay was cut as well. Ben then did make me go to bed.
Hello and good morning. Now, believe it or not, I have actually been working for 3 hours on this project already, well, on the bodice, which is currently on bed, so let's show you what I've been doing. So essentially nothing I've done you're actually going to see when I'm wearing the dress, but I've gone around, I've started overlocking the armpits here. I've also started sealing down any of these loose tassels. Don't really want to cut them because this rope just seems to fray a lot, so we're just going to tack them down and leave them like that. I'm sure they'll be fine. The other thing I did, I don't know if you guys can see, is I actually went along and under both arms I've just reinforced the stitching because it came out a lot of the time really high, and we don't want that, essentially. I've also gone along the edge of the corset and added bias tape and tacked that down so that now we have nice neat edges. I will need to add grommets on that, but honestly I'm leaving the grommets till last because they are going to be a pain in the ass to do. However, I can live without these being overlocked if I need to. So what I'm going to do now is go and work on the collar, the peplums and the waistband for the skirt, and then we will come back to this later. Overall though, not looking too bad.
I pinned the lace and the metallic fabric together, ready to sew before we went off to the machine. Honestly, I really didn't like doing this. I was bored by it and wanted to go back to hand stitching. Thing is, I can wear a costume that's a bit messy on the inside. I can't wear one that's messy on the outside, especially when it's a competition piece. All these pieces were stitched together before I pinned the 2 sides facing and sewed along the outside of the interfacing. I then went ham, cutting into the curves of the collar and peplums so that they would lay nicely before turning them right way around.
So the peplums and the collar are now done, which, yay, finally, this is looking really good. I have assessed the situation and decided we are going to finish the skirt because really the top, I need to finish the hand stuff, at least the overlocking stitch that I can't do by machine around the armholes, before I attach the collar on, just to make sure it doesn't get creased or anything like that really. So with the skirt, we're just gonna put some stuff on. I haven't got a zip. I was gonna go buy one, but honestly, I think hook and eyes are actually gonna work better, especially given how heavy the skirt is. I don't think the zip would hold up unless I got a real heavy duty one, and those are very hard to hide. So let's unpin it from the mannequin and see how we go about this.
I took the skirt and sewed in the metallic blue and pink fabric to be used as a placket. It doesn't quite match, but it will work a lot better than if I'd used the sequin fabric instead. The placket also has some strong cotton left over from the petticoat in it to help support the weight of the skirt. These were then hand stitched down so that they lay right. Taking the peplums, I pinned the skirt to them before also pinning the waistband. Then I realised that if I wanted this to be extra neat, it would be now that I needed to outline the peplums with the gold rope, so I settled on the floor with some true crime and got stitching. This actually went by super quick and looked amazing, and it's at this point when I have to thank everyone on my Discord, as through this entire dressmaking process I was being most undecided and kept asking for their opinions, on one occasion only giving them literally 10 minutes to weigh in, and oh my god, you guys came through to me. Thank you so much. I genuinely don't think I could have made this within 5 days without you backing me up, and you're all absolute gems. And if you guys also want to join my Discord, the link is in the description down below. We have an amazing supportive community and I would encourage you to check in.
This is looking so much better than I anticipated. Oh my god, yes! We only have a few things left to do on the skirt. I just need to sew the waistband down so that it is kind of folded on the underside, and then just do all of the attachments so that I can actually do it up and keep it on. Also, I am just saying this skirt is insanely heavy. I think it is a very good thing that I happened to decide to treat myself and buy extra strong Gutermann thread, because if I wasn't using it, I would probably be worried this entire thing would fall apart.
The waistband was pinned and stitched, then I attached some hook and eyes and poppers for the fastening, and honestly I was annoyed I didn't have a zip for this, but in reality this almost works better, so yay!
And with that, this lovely skirt is done. We have one more day and just the bodice to go, so fingers crossed we get this done on time. Also, can I just say, I love how though this fabric is made up of individual blue and pink strands. When you step back, it just looks like the most gorgeous shade of lavender purple. Hello, good morning. It is 6 o'clock in the morning, and if my hair is a mess, it is because I have just crawled out of bed. My throat is also very sore today, which is a great start to this weekend. So today, this is getting done. No ifs, ands or buts, we are finishing this because the competition is tomorrow and we need to enter her. And if you want to see me make another Aurora dress, I have actually been saving up for the proper colour changing fabric that I use in Disney parks. I have found it for sale online, so yay! And I even found some colour changing organza to go with it, which would be perfect. I'm actually currently raising money for it on my Ko-Fi page, so if you wanted to go over there and drop me a donation, I've also got loads of free sewing patterns, so please do check it out. That would be amazing. Not to mention, if you donate, your name will get embroidered on my next Aurora dress, so please do. That would be amazing. I would really like to make it, and now that I've made this one, I know some adjustments I need to make the other one even more perfect.
Before we get to work, I realised I never showed you guys the swish this skirt has, so by the time we had eaten breakfast it was nearly 7 AM, and at this point we got stitching, overlocking those sleeve holes before locking down the excess gold to stop it from fraying.
Talk about perfect timing, I finished my bobbin, and with the last bit of thread I have finished the inside. So let us pin on the collar, and then we're gonna have to do some more hand stitching.
Pinning on the collar didn't take too long, and stitching it was done extra slow and carefully. After that, I sat on the floor with my fabric scissors and notched the curve to help the seam lay nicely before we again began hand stitching it on the inside to help it stand up and stay in place. Then we were on to the gold. Now, I had ordered 10 yards this gold, and honestly I was feeling pretty good that it would be enough for everything, but it was at this point I began to doubt myself, as not only did I ideally want to go around the entire edge of the bodice, but also go along the top and bottom of the collar and the sleeves as well. Do I have enough? Let's find out. And yes, I spent practically the whole day on the floor sewing. Go me!
This looks wearable, which is a big step in the right direction. To be honest, I love all the gold. It came out so nicely. The stuff around the bottom isn't great, so I might redo that at some point. I think it's mostly because just where this fabric's on curve, and I mentioned it has some stretch, it has just drooped a bit. So grommets, let's do the grommets and hope for the love of God that this gets done on time. It is 4:30 in the afternoon. I don't really want to be working on this till midnight, but I will if I have to, so.
Before moving to the practical dress parts, I watched a quick tutorial about cutting lace off the front of a lace front wig before giving it a go. Did I do this right? Who knows, but we'll find out tomorrow. Back onto the corset, I marked out the grommet placement before pressing the grommets in. Once those were all done, I began covering the grommets individually in metallic gold thread to make them not only stronger but look a whole lot nicer too. And at last we could try this on for the first time and trim down the skirt, which I of course did the morning of the convention, and so with that, it's time for the grand reveal.
Well guys, she is done, and oh my gosh, isn't she amazing? The sequins were not nearly as loud to walk around in as I anticipated, which is good because I don't like making loads and loads of noise when I'm walking because I feel like I'm impeding on other people, but there was a lot of kids who wanted photos with me and that just made my day. Having said that though, I did enter the cosplay competition. Sadly, I did not win anything, which, considering the standards of everyone else who entered, I totally understand why. However, I went back to the judges the next day because I was very tired at the end of the first one. I asked for some feedback. So not only do I have a list of things for me that I want to do adjustments on this costume, but I also have a list from the judges to help me win my next cosplay competition with Aurora. Not least of all the wig, which I just ran out of time to do, and also yeah, these things are very, very flappy and annoying. I honestly think this came out perfect, and my only regret is that I didn't buy more of this lace and the under fabric so that I can use them on my next one. I do have some sequins left over, so I think I am going to be making a more casual version of Aurora with that fabric because, well, there's no point it going to waste. One other thing I love about the dress is that I can technically make it entirely pink if I want, though to be honest, I really think the blue looks better on me, which is why we're leaving it at that. However, like I said, I'm going to be making a sync with the leftover fabric, so I think with the leftover fabric we are going to set pink as the primary colour, just for a bit of a swap and change. I'm also wondering if I can do another bodice and skirt that I can swap these ones out with. I mean, it's not going to have the same lace and underlay as this, but maybe that wouldn't look too bad. If you have any ideas for a shorter version of the Aurora dress, please leave them in the comments down below because this is something I will definitely be doing in the next month or so. The sequins on this dress had the exact effect that I was looking for. As I walked around the convention, brushed up against things, had people take photos of me, they gradually got a smattering of pink in, which was really good, and so many people wanted to try running their hand up and down my arm or my skirt so that they can make my dress change colour for themselves, and the fact that everyone else loved it was just so nice, and I am very, very pleased. I got a lot of compliments. Maybe I didn't win the cosplay competition, but I had an excellent day. But honestly, it's just so good. The collar actually came out perfectly and I was super impressed with this. The peplums as well looked really nice, though I think I probably should have done them a little bit more A-line just because they do stick out a little bit too much, I feel. The circle skirt was an excellent choice, and I think the panel down the front was really good as well. There was no way that I was going to be able to hide that seam, and having an intentional different coloured panel just kind of makes it blend in a lot easier. The skirt length though is one thing that I do need to change. Even though it's already been trimmed up, it's still a bit too long, so I'm going to trim it up again and also hem it properly because though this fabric doesn't fray, I was losing a lot of sequins.
So guys, as you can tell, Annabelle's killing it on the floor. However, she's also leaving a trail of sequins everywhere. We can quite literally track her movements round the convention.
The petticoat as well, I put in so much work into that petticoat, probably more work than the rest of the outfit combined. And honestly, it's just not strong enough to hold up the weight of the sequins, which is fine. I've got a few solutions for this, so we will experiment and you guys will see that happen. The bodice though, oh my gosh, she is so comfy. I have to give a big thanks to Ben for this because he drew on all the lines, and basically I gave him the picture, said draw this, and he did, and it came out super perfect. If you did want this pattern, it is available on Ko-Fi, and I will be releasing it on my Patreon as well, so please check that out. Links for both are down below. And if you did want to subscribe to Patreon, I am actually posting a mini vlog of the weekend that you guys will get to see as an extra video, along with early access to all my regular videos as well. The gold trim also looked amazing, and surprisingly it's on there very firmly. I thought I might have to go through with even more stitches, but I think the first round actually worked. In fact, the only downside to this costume is the fact that I genuinely cannot lift my arms up any higher than this, which is annoying, but that is why I have a Ben, so that he can reach up and get anything that I need for me. What do you guys think of this costume though? Was it a success, and was it worth me literally killing myself all week to get done? Because I think yes. Con crunching is something I've never experienced before, so this was certainly an experience, but it wasn't really a bad one. Just a very exhausting one instead. Besides, I love Aurora's dress so much, and I really want to use this pattern or a slightly altered version of it to make a colour changing version of it like they have in the Disney parks, which, talking of, that is the current goal on Ko-Fi, is to get the fabric for it. So if you did want to go over there and drop a donation, check out all the free sewing patterns that I've got over there. I would really appreciate it. The sewing pattern for Aurora is actually free over on Ko-Fi as well if you would like it. However, the graded version I am going to have paid because grading it takes quite a lot of time. But if you don't want to pay that much for it, that is absolutely fine. I am actually going to be having it as next month's graded sewing pattern. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button. And subscribe to see more cosplay sewing content. I have quite a few costumes planned for this year, and I think my next Disney princess to tackle will be Snow White. This dress just turned out beautiful, guys, and even though she still has a little bit of work to do on her, I am super pleased with the result. Not to mention that the photographers at Comic-Con got me some beautiful photos, which is now also the new profile picture for my Discord, which you can join if you want. We have many discussions going on over there, and if you need help with your cosplay, I'd be more than happy to answer questions. Until next Wednesday, guys, I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye!